So I'm very pleased to introduce my friend Wendy Lang. She's a really master teacher and very empowering for shamanic Chinese medicine. And we know each other from way back where we were on retreat together and meditating together and practicing Qigong, and full admiration for Wendy and what she manifested. Over 10 years this training has been happening here in Vancouver and Victoria. And it seems to be getting better and better every year. And today I was watching the practitioners doing healing sessions on each other. It was such a peaceful and potent healing energy in the room. It was really palatable. And this is after just 1 year of training. So they were really wonderful. Yes. People coming from far away, as Australia, North Carolina, Virginia, and New York for this training here in Vancouver. So we're really wonderful that we have this training right here in Vancouver, accessible for us. And we're in beautiful locations like Standing Park where we do Qigong with the big trees. And Qigong is all about connecting ourselves with nature, the life force of nature. So it's been really wonderful practicing in Standing Park. And there's some graduates from the program showing up. Awesome. Good. So please take it away, Wendy.
Thank you, Minka. So, yes, I have done makeup for a very long time. I hate to say 40 years, probably like getting on 40 years or something. Not quite, but, and did the training and did that work with you back on Reed Island, and the retreat center was Silent Ground, and that was 30 years ago. And it was a very intensive practice. And we were living out where there was no, we were very off the grid in that location. And we did, 12 hours to 14-hour day practice of Qigong and meditation. And that was an 8-month program. So that was very, very powerful in transforming who you are. And so Minka and her partner at the time were leading that program, but I was like the student, so there was 3 of us. So I was very, very lucky to have that background, and I went into that with not with my energy being very low. So I had something that was probably like chronic fatigue, but no one ever, that word was not in use at the time. I just had very, very low energy, and I struggled a lot energetically and got sick a lot. I had had bouts of pneumonia, I'd had asthma, nephritis, some things like that going on, which are definitely signs of weak qi. And there's nothing like 8 months of solid qigong to change that situation. So I came out of that really as a new person, and with a great appreciation, and also realizing that this was really my life path, and that I was there for a reason, and that I immediately after that went and actually I studied with Mantak Chia, and then I became a teacher and started teaching. So I started teaching back, like 89, I started teaching, and 90. Anyway, so I was teaching a lot of Qigong workshops. I would travel around and teach those. And then I was incorporating that also with some Chinese medicine. I didn't do acupuncture, but I did acupressure and cupping and herbs and things like that. So more and Tui Na and Qinei Tsang. So those kind of things. And then I came across medical Qigong, and when I saw that, it was like, I knew immediately that that was something that I needed to study. And that was with Dr. Jerry Allen Johnson, who is the author of these books. And so he didn't have those books at the time. He didn't have any books at the time. And we studied in his garage. And we made notes of everything he said, and we would exchange notes at the end of the sessions and bring away that information. And it wasn't until the very end of the years that I studied with him that he actually came out with with a very large textbook that was like really, really thick and huge, and that then became another set of 5 volumes, which then also then morphed again into this other set, this most recent set, which has also got a lot of the more of the mysticism in it and more of the magical aspects in it. So that was how, and then I studied those things. I'd been doing a lot of other work through that time and teaching other things. As I said, I was already teaching seminars in Qigong up until then, and I was incorporating working on people, and I was very happy with my life as it was, and I wasn't going to teach this. And I said I will not teach this until someone knocks at my door and says that they have a whole class of people waiting for me, and because I had a lot going on. And then one day someone knocked at my door, and they told me that, like literally knocked on my door. It wasn't just like phoned me. They literally came to my door and knocked and said, "Hi, are you Wendy Lang? Do you teach medical Qigong? Because I have a whole class that needs a teacher all ready to be taught." And it was like the other person didn't show up, and it's like, oh no, it's just that was what I had said, and I knew that I couldn't go back on that. I said, here's the deal, I'm not teaching until this happens, and it was like, busted, now I have to teach. So that's how I started teaching this, because I felt like there was so much information, I wanted to master it first. So it was like, oh no, I can't teach this until I've really been practicing it for years, and I really have, I was like tossed out there. I mean, I think I'd been, probably 3 years of practice before that happened, but there it was. And so I started teaching it, and I taught it I was living in California at the time, so I started teaching in California. And then, because that was where I lived, and that's where the door knock came. So, and then a really good friend of mine, where I had been teaching Qigong on Vancouver Island, also got me to come up and start teaching in Victoria. And then, of course, Minka was here in Vancouver and had me come over here and start teaching, and that's how I landed here. So what I teach is a 3-year program that goes through the practitioner, therapist, and master's levels. So it sounds like a lot, but it probably is, because it changes your life. Even in the first year of this class, you go in as one person, and really by about halfway through you are a different person. It's extremely transformational. So it comes under the guise of a healing practice, but it's actually a very intensive spiritual journey, and spiritual journey of transformation. And one of the reasons that it is so powerful is because it's not just all about you. It's actually you, and then you have to give from you. So you become a greater receptacle of the energies that want to move through and heal others. So you become a conduit. And so maybe you're catching some divine attention because you're sitting there meditating, but when you're putting something out in the world, it's like you get a lot more attention, and there's a lot more energy and guidance and beings who really want to support you in that. And so it becomes a very rapid path of spiritual transformation. And part of that path is on yourself, and there's no way around that. I'm looking over at Mark and sort of chuckling a little bit. Poor Mark, first day in class. So sometimes I put people in the chairs, so like I have a chair like this, and they ask certain questions, and I'm like, the only answer for this is to put them in the chair and have them experience. Because as a teacher, it's great to have information, but unless it's something that you embody and experience, I don't consider it to be valuable, because it's mental. So whatever is in here needs to become part of your experience. So the way I teach is always that because that's the way I am. I don't get things unless I feel them. unless I embody it. And then otherwise it's just a mental concept. And so I have found ways over the years that I have taught to make this a whole embodied process. So you become what is being talked about. And I have unusual ways of doing that because I had to learn in my own way, because most thing is given to you like in a book form where it's, you know, it's mental and it's visual. But I don't personally learn that way. I learn through experience. And that's you know, unless I feel it, it's even hard for me to keep it in my mind, because it's like, what was that? Like, it has to fit together into this large picture. And so before I had come to this work, I'd also done a lot of work with meditations and spiritual teachers, and I had been to India with Papaji, Sri Punjaji, back in the early 90s before the crowds were there. So he was one of my teachers. He's one of the non-dual teachers. So that was way back when. And so I'd had that experience. I'd had a ton of meditation experience, of course, at Silent Ground with Minka. So I came from also, there was a very spiritual perspective that I was bringing into this. And what I love about this teaching is that it's not just physical, energetic teaching. It's very much body, mind, and spirit. And the spirit part is very much emphasized in this work, because everything that comes into the body, it's looked at as originating in spirit that then comes down to form the physical. So if you're working with somebody, you're working with healing, if you're trying to heal just from the physical level, that can be very difficult, because the problem isn't actually arising on the physical level. And so then you look into, well, what is the emotional component in this? So that's good, you're getting a step further. So you can get into the emotional component, and then you can get into the belief system that's causing the emotional component. And we go a step further than that. We need to know the spiritual significance and the spiritual meaning of whatever is going on, the spiritual lesson behind it. And in order for there to be healing, that has to actually be embodied, and that's when healing happens, and that happens by the energy returning to the heart. And so when we look at healing, there's a whole process of healing, but there's a piece that has to come back into the heart, and we call that resolution. So whatever is behind, whatever might be going on with the person, whatever that issue is, whether it seems to be purely an emotional issue, whether it seems to be a very purely physical issue, like I fell down and broke my leg, we're still looking for this fuller aspect of the body, mind, and spirit in order to come to that healing. So if we, like, well, broke your leg, was there a message there? Like, what was going on in your life to be able to bring in that message and that understanding, so you don't have to go out and, you know, break your arm after breaking your leg or fall again. Let's move through this, come to the, and it's a spiritual dynamic there to get to that place. And you don't get there until you get there. And so we do a lot of work. You can like hope that you got there, but if you didn't really get there, you still haven't found resolution. So when something happens, so if you're looking at an emotional issue, like an emotionally based issue, or that happened, so I broke my leg after this event, someone yelled at me and I was so upset and I kind of went into shock, and so I fell down, which is often how those things kind of occur. So then I broke my leg. But then you have to kind of go back, well, what is this issue? And then we look at the emotions. And because we're looking at this from not just, we're looking for this as Chinese medicine. So we talk about shamanic Chinese medicine. So we can look at that from the 5-element point of view. With the 5 elements, when that issue happened, when someone attacked you, that attack came into the heart. So we always feel initially that the spirit is attacked. Like, someone says something, even, sometimes someone looks at you and they go, like, what does that mean? And it goes to your heart. And the heart will actually kick off sometimes a long-term sensory memory. It's like, oh, and suddenly you're back when you're, 5 years old and something happened, because the heart is in charge of long-term memory. That's where it sits. So it'll kick that piece off of the long-term memory. But the heart can't accept whatever came in, because the heart is the spirit, is the Shen. And it's a piece of the divine, it's a piece of source. And so source can't see how you would harm me, because in source we're not separate. We're one. We're not different, so it makes no sense. And so it has to get kicked out of the heart. If you want to keep pushing that pain into your heart, you'll actually cause heart problems. So then you're going to cause a lot of difficult, serious things and heart issues if you really keep that and you keep telling yourself, no, I'm bad, you attack me because there's something wrong with me. That hurts your heart. But normally, the heart is shielded, and that energy will then get deflected off into the liver, which will get pissed off. And, just want to put that out there, gets angry. So that's the liver does, and that's its way of protecting you. So the liver's protecting you by getting angry, or it gets angry at itself. It's like, ooh, I shouldn't have done that, so it'll be an inward anger. And it will also get sad at the same time, and that'll come into the lungs. So this is the fire element, your heart, and this is the wood element here with your liver, and this is the metal element with your heart, with your lungs. And your sadness gets stuck in the lungs, and we cry. When you cry, you can't really breathe well, so they become very obstructed. And after a while, if it doesn't get resolved, it'll just become background noise, and your body will store that information, and it'll store it in the muscles of different areas of the body and different organs. We'll have to keep that in there. We'll continually have to deal with that, and that takes away from the power of your immune system. So that leads to illness, because there's an energy required to store this in the body. It doesn't just stay there. There's a tension attached to that. So there's a tension around the anger, there's a tension around the sadness that actually stores itself in the body, and the energy required for that tension, it brings your shoulders up, or it makes your back hurt, or whatever that does, it stores it in the body, and so that starts to pull your chi away from you. So you start to have less energy. And this will go on for people's entire lives. They'll remember that situation, they'll get angry about it, then they'll get angry and they'll feel righteous, and then they'll feel sad, and then they'll blame themselves, and then they'll go back and they'll pick this bone up again and they'll chew it, and when it gets late at night they'll wake up and they'll think about these old situations. And it's just the energy going back from the liver to the lungs, and it's just bouncing back and forth here, and it doesn't know where to go because it's stuck at the emotional level. And there's beliefs that are tied in there, but it's pretty unconscious. And so then you have to see what's actually the fear is underneath that, which is going down to your kidneys. So you actually have to connect with the kidneys, and you have to look at what am I really afraid of here? You have to ask a bigger question and get down into that larger belief, that one that underlies, well, what I really believe is that no one loves me, that I'm really not lovable. Something like that, a big one. And you've been, this is like the evidence, this issue kind of proves that, it gives empirical evidence to the mind, and it's like, yeah, I really, I've got this whole litany of reasons why I'm not lovable. And the mind goes off on that. And so then we want to look at that fear in another way, because it's always a lie. And we always equate fear, lie. Fear, lie. So if it's a fear, it's a lie. And then we have to see what is the lie that's there. How is that fear a complete untruth? So you can always say, but wait a second, I am lovable. And here's all this other evidence that says I am actually lovable. And so the other parts is the lie. So you've got to separate out the lie from the truth. So the fear is based in a lie. So this is really big. And finding that will start to change everything, but it also is going to change your life. So I have to always ask the question now, who would you be without this fear? Because we're getting into a really deep place. And then we're going to need to transform that energy. And this is where we kind of get really out there, because we come up with other energies that are telling you this lie, that are in your energy field. And, you know, we call these demons. People have demons. As much as, you know, we don't like that word, and we want to shoo it under the mat in our society. You know, if you've ever been around a dying person and they start to act really strange, or if you've been a person who's unconscious and you're a nurse or something, you know that weird stuff starts to happen. That's just, those are these other energies that live off of us. And I don't like to just psychologize them and say, oh, they're just other negative thought forms, because we actually work with them in the way that we recognize that they have true beingness. And that just because you can't see them doesn't mean that they're not there. So we all kind of have a little troop around us that are, you know, feeding us these negative thoughts. And it's actually really nice to know it's not you. It's like, oh, well, what if all that negativity wasn't actually me? Because when you think it's all you, then you're attacking your shin. It's like, oh, maybe there's something there that I need to deal with, that I need to stop believing in and listening to. So we get very habitual. We listen to these voices that are telling us negativity over and over again. And so we recognize those. And at the same time that we recognize them, we also take responsibility. And we take a responsibility for our lives. And we look at our life as something that we are the author of. And we have to step out as victim. But to really resolve something, there's a lot of steps. So, so we have to also, then we have to like, we take responsibility. That means we can't be a victim. But the victim is another lie that we've been told. It's like, oh yeah, but that voice keeps saying I'm a victim. You just try and be an enlightened victim. Just try and be a powerful victim. I am in this world to really express myself as a victim. Well, no, you know, it's just, you know, that just doesn't work. But we really get very addicted to it. It feeds us certain energies. And it's like we're addicts, and there's certain chemicals that just sort of come into us and feed us, that keep us in that place. So we're really looking, we're getting really radical here, that we're going to actually break free of being victims and really own who we are. Because who you really are, there isn't anyone in this room who is really a victim. Every person in this room is a bright, shining light. And it's just you allowing that. It's letting go of everything that you believe that's telling you that that isn't true. Because you all are that. And that's where your power lies. And so if you believe the victim part, you're addicted to that, you keep giving away your energy. And there's something, as you give away, there's something there that takes it. And so there's like, well, but I'm really mad. I don't want to let go of being mad at this person. You know, because that would mean that then I'd have to forgive that person. And I am always telling my clients, like, okay, well, you don't have to forgive them, but just remember they'll be in your life next time around. So you resolve that one. And usually they're right on board then. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to take care of that. You don't like, you still want to just hang on to your hate for that person? Yeah, you can do that. But, yeah. You know, but you will eventually need to clear that. You eventually need to clear all these things. So when you do all that, and when you accept that, and you get your power back, and that is soul retrieval. That is a real soul retrieval, because you got that part of your soul that you gave away. And you gave it away to being a victim, or you know, so many different stories, or I'm not loved. They can be really subtle and really kind of almost under the carpet. But they're all places where you've given your soul away. So our work, shamanic Chinese medicine, is doing this. It's like we are bringing that back to you to empower you. And at that point, the spirit is able to go back into the heart. Because remember in the beginning of our journey, it couldn't go in. And actually the moment when you take responsibility, and when you kind of look at your journey and decide to have faith, and you're going to actually do this, and you're actually going to look down at that fear, that involved the spleen energy of the earth. And so you've gone from the heart rejecting to then coming back into the, you've gone through the anger in your liver, the grief that was in the lungs about this, discovered the fear, had the faith to decide you're going to keep going through on your journey, and you're willing to do what it takes of the spleen, and at that point your energy is able to come back into the heart that was lost. So it's amazing that it's that circuitous, but when it's back, you are different. Like that's a real healing. And what I find is anything else that doesn't really get there, doesn't get there. And it's still just, you're still going to be mucking around with this for years. And whatever that issue was, is not even on your radar. It's not in your body, and it's not in your mind anymore. And you can think about that situation with no energetic charge whatsoever, and that's how you know that it's resolved. So there was a lesson. So that is just the kind of a lesson that we have all the time through these seminars.
Thank you.
So it's very powerful work, and it works. We're doing this. We're also working because we work with the body, mind, and spirit. We're working with qigong, with the body to energize the body and to energize yourself. To actually go through a lot of transformation takes energy. And so there's a foundation that we do in the energy practices, in postures. So we have our Daoyans, we have postural work, we have breath work, because all of these things are necessary, as well as the spiritual work. So we incorporate all of this into everything we do. Before we do a session like that, we're actually, as a healer, you ground yourself, you connect to heaven and earth, you bring in all of your helpers with you, you do all sorts of things to clear the space and empower and wrap the person up. Energy fields, it sort of goes quite a bit, but you create very safe healing spaces for this work, which involves actually standing in a strong posture in order to be able to do that. So a big part of this, especially initially, is with your self-healing, and the self-healing part of this goes on through all the years of the teaching. So, and this next year we're actually going to be teaching a doctor of shamanic Chinese medicine with someone who has that. It's going to be between here in Victoria, and I'm co-teaching with that one with Noelle Taylor from Victoria. So there's actually more, it's like there's just so much, and you get into this, and there's a lot in the books, and you just start to realize what it takes. Like there can be the books are a lot like life. You could take one part of these books and just delve into that one part, and that would kind of evolve a lot of the rest of all the books, just because you embraced a certain part of it, which would then embody the whole. So you can get certain lessons that then the whole thing is accumulative, the whole thing is tied together, because as body, mind, spirit beings, we aren't separate. I mean, within ourselves, our bodies, minds, the body, the physical, energetic, and spiritual are not separate. We live in all those worlds always at the same time. So there aren't, there isn't a separation between them. So actually, as you are working on your physical structure, you're also affecting the rest of your being. Say, for example, if you just pay attention to a moment, just how you're sitting right now without moving, and just how you're breathing right now without paying attention to your breathing. And then you shifted that by sitting up. So just changing posture. So as an example of them all working together, so you shift your posture to get your spine erect. So you sit up, you smile, and already your energy's different. So there may be little shifts, but already it's different. And now you start to breathe. So you take a deep breath. And if you start to breathe deeply, you'll actually relax out of your mind and just start to feel your body and just become present in the moment. So that's posture and breath. So we're being very physical. And but they are not separate. And because after you keep breathing deeply, you'll drop yourself into a very spiritual state of consciousness just through doing that. So one affects the other. And so we're always paying attention to this as we are in all these teachings. It's always tied together. We're always being very conscious of these connections and how they work together. So in a class, you're going to be working, we will do some Qigong physical work. We call that, postural work with postures. We add breath to that. And we also add visualizations to that. So we will maybe be breathing in a color, paying attention to or animals or directions. And so we are shamanic. We do have meditations that include bringing in the animals, but we don't work with the spirit medicines. So even though we're shamanic, this isn't the plant, we're not doing plant medicines with this. So there's no ayahuasca part of what we do. But that said, we do amazing transformations and get into amazing states of consciousness without that. So not that I'm dissing that or anything, it's just another path. And some of the students are very, students are very involved in that too, and that's absolutely fine. So the class can maybe start with some exercises, and then we will maybe start to get into lecture, and then to make the lecture come to life, we may have someone that we were talking about, have someone be a demo, and we'll actually do a sort of session with someone in the room, or I'll put maybe these certain colored circles on the floor, and we'll do an invocation. We'll actually bring the energy, maybe it's 5 elements, so we'll bring the 5 element energies into the room very specifically, and the students will come and, this is what a balanced spleen feels like, and then you can step, we have maybe to the left feels deficient and to the right feels excess. So we actually create that for you to experience in the room. And so that's not a mental exercise, that's actually an invocation. So we invoke energies into the room for teaching. So there'll be that experience in the room of those energies that are palpable for anyone to be there and to experience. So, like I say, I don't want to do mental, memorizing stuff. I want it to mean something. So it all comes down and has meaning. And so there's the first year, which is 4 5-day seminars. And the first one is very much about you healing yourself, even though I trick you into doing some distance healing on somebody else in the room in that first one. And by that point, it's just like it's almost normal to you, even after just in those first 5 days that you're doing some distance healing. The second seminar, you start to learn a whole protocol that's sort of like foundational that's come from the colleges of medical Qigong from China. So that would be from the Haidan University or Xiwan University in Beijing. So these are protocols that we have from them. And they no longer exist in China because of the Falun Gong ran afoul of the government there. So because of that, all of Qigong had to disappear from China. However, it is here, and we still do this, and these books are based on, a lot of what's in there is based on that. So then we start to learn those protocols, and at the same time you're still working on yourself at the same time, and then learning to work on others. By the third seminar, you're learning invisible needle therapies, learning how to emit hot and cold energies, and you actually feel these things. It's like, well, it's no good until you actually feel it. So, but you will. So, and those who you work on, like, wow, and it seems so miraculous, but you're just in the third seminar of the first year, and then we continue that fourth seminar. Today we worked on animals in the class, and one of the things about the class was that everyone, and we do like a blind thing, so it's like they don't know anything about the animal except whether it's a dog or a cat in the name. They don't know what, whether it's a big dog, a little dog. If it's Fifi, they're thinking it's small, but they get a name, but if it's George, they don't have any idea. So they have to, so that's all they get. And then we go through the work, the treatment, and part of that is they are reading and getting messages from these animals, and everyone in the class, all the students in the class got the animal in a lot of ways. Sometimes the hardest one is sometimes the color, but a lot of them got the color, but they got pretty much the kind of dog or cat, and the issues that cat has, and just had a lot to say about what the cat had been experiencing, or the dog had been experiencing in their life, and what the dog's, if it was a young dog, if it was an old dog, what the dog's issue was, like, I need more play. But other ones, it was like, I was working with someone, one was like, I just need to be fussed over, like, fuss over me. And apparently this dog just loves to be fussed over. So without any more information than that, we actually did healing on these animals. Just with the name and what kind of an animal it was, and I led everybody through the how to do this work, and so that was, I think, really exciting. It's always exciting, and your mind likes it because the mind starts to like, oh, okay, the mind starts to believe what is actually the heart mind. So that starts to connect up here because the heart understands and knows the future and knows all this stuff. The heart is connected to everything. And so what's up here starts to be more connected to the heart. It's like, oh, I can trust this. I can actually say these things because what is being spoken is actually true. And so the head likes this empirical evidence. So you practice and you get more and more empirical evidence that you're understanding things. Not last week? Today. Yeah, I think it was actually last week. I worked on someone, and this person came in. He came in for dizziness issues, and I looked at him and I thought, what's going on? Okay, I knew he had dizziness, something in the head, and I'm seeing a brain tumor. I'm seeing a brain tumor at the top of his head. And so it's like, oh, he doesn't know what's causing this. I can see it's a brain tumor right there. It's almost hard to look at him because I keep seeing a brain tumor, and it's like really in the energy field, and I can see how much it's causing this disturbance that he's experiencing. And I'm like, well, then I'm not going to say that. I don't, that's against my rules. I'm not going to say brain tumor. So I said, the first thing I had to say was like, have you seen a doctor about this? What has your doctor said? I said, oh yeah, they've done lots of scans, and they really don't see anything. It's like, oh, okay. You've done lots of scans, they're not seeing a brain tumor, so I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, is it going to be? Because I keep getting the message, brain tumor, and I keep talking, and we're like, I'm trying to figure something else out, because what is this thing that's not funny? He says to me, oh, and by the way, I have these brain tumors at the top of my head. It's like, oh, thank you. I was just so relieved for him to say that. It's like, okay, good, we can get on the same page now. We can go from here. But you start to do that. You start to see things. You start to tune, and that's part of it. We actually, in the second year, first you start off with a meditation that is designed for you to, to do that, to see into bodies. So you need to be able to have a lot of other skills. This is shamanic Chinese medicine, so you want to be able to look into the body and see what's there. It's it's so much easier than, it's much less expensive than going for all of these other tools that are out there, and easier on you. So that first year though, you come through and there's going to be the students are on a clinic on Saturday, and they're starting to work on people, and then we have a big clinic. And we've mentioned that the clinic is just getting full, but there's still a wait list. So if you haven't signed up for our clinic that is on the Empty Mountain website, do that, because we're getting wait list. Oh, you've got the sign up sheet over here. But you need to actually go on and register on the website. So the website is emptymountain.com. Look up free clinics, and the clinic is called Everyone Welcome. And everyone's welcome until we run out of space. But even when we run out of space, there's going to be also Chi Day, which is right here, where we're giving in the morning on Chi Day, both Saturday and Sunday at the Atrium Inn. We are having Qigong classes for free in the morning. So 3 class times in the morning, excuse me. And John knows all about this. What are the 3 class times for the?
There's one they're 45-minute classes, so if you want to try them out, it's 9 to 9:45, and then another one from 10:15 to 11 o'clock, and then 11:30 to 12:15. So they're spaced out a half hour between them, so that we have a chance to allow people to come in and fill up another class.
Yeah, and can even maybe take the class twice if you want.
You got it. Could be different teachers.
Different teachers, yeah. And they're graduates of this class. And in the afternoon, there will be some chair sessions available. You can't get into the big clinic. But we always have lots of people. Kind of gets all last week. We have cancellations, and we need people to fill in. So it's still good to get on the wait list. So so the first year is, and then I teach the first year also channeling class. So I teach channeling, which really aids this, because you can start to get in touch with guides, and you get to bring in that more divine energy and guidance, and that really helps your work. So, and that's part of to be the shamanic rather than just medical Qigong. Shamanic Chinese medicine requires actually to do the channeling class as well, which is just a weekend, but it's very, very helpful. And then we go through a second year, which just continues with all sorts of amazing learning experiences. And then it goes to a third year, and people sometimes say, well, I can't believe there's more, and then they're like, oh yeah, there's a lot more. There's still more to come. And and so just finishing up a group that's been going for 3 years next week, which makes me very sad, because I like my babies. Sad to see them go. Like, love those guys. And the classes get very bonded, I'll tell you. Everybody is just so close, because you go through all this transformation together. And there are a lot of other people out there who you can actually go through a transformation like this with, or can even understand where it is, these places that it's taking you. So they love each other, really a lot. And like I say, we're actually doing another 6 seminars that are going to be more the doctoral level of the shamanic Chinese medicine. Yeah, the stomach of the something is grumbling here.
Got a spleen deficiency over here.
Spleen has something.
Yes. She's a little bit of water elements, I guess, what's going on
Or
there
excess,
too.
maybe, perhaps.
Okay, so sometimes I like to do, maybe it's time for, what is my timeline?
Question, it's a quarter to 8.
Okay, keep track of the time here. Okay, so I think I'm going to answer some questions right now. So Q&A sounds good. Yes.
Do you have to do the courses in specific order, and do you have to do all of them?
Okay, so the question is, do you have to do the courses in specific order, and do you have to do all of them? So it's good to start at the Square One course, and the courses are also recorded, so that you can actually, if you miss one, that you can catch up on that one. I am working on getting this online, but I have a really tight schedule, and the person I'm working with, I must drive crazy. She is like the most patient person in the world. Because I go, oh yeah, I've got to get to that stuff. So I'm actually trying to get some of it actually to be even online, the part that can be online, but so much of it really needs to be in person. So that makes it difficult, although the meditations actually have a lot of charge to them anyway. And if you do this, there are beings that are working with us who will be there for people, you know, not embodied, but, you know, light beings and not scary beings. So don't get those. But do you need to take them in order? Yes, because you can't, you know, jump into something. There are exceptions, like you know, on a rare occasion I make some exceptions for certain people with certain backgrounds, but it's not like people have a background in this. So even if you are, you know, have the acupuncture or all the Chinese medicine, this is still very different. And actually, I gave a lecture last year at UBC at the conference there on one of the conferences on Chinese medicine. I'm doing that again this summer in August. There's a Chinese medicine conference out at UBC that I'm going to be speaking at as well. So anyway, to answer to your question,
Thank you.
you kind of have to, it really does build on, it keeps really building. But you can do the channeling, advanced channeling and mediumship. Those are all separate. And I have a meditation course that's separate too. So those are all more standalone. And I'm getting some people wanting me to do more things to do, but to offer some shorter seminars that aren't part of all this.
And Qigong?
And
Qigong, too? Is that a component of it?
yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, all of it is you're working on Qigong the whole time through this, and you become a teacher of Qigong. Like John Weiss here, teaches Qigong. That's what he does. Teaches Qigong and gives sessions, and this is where he learned it. Yeah. So absolutely, yes. This is Qigong. And yes.
I was just curious, how did the shamanic part get connected to the Qigong?
Okay, good question. How did the shamanic part get connected to the Qigong?
Yeah.
So originally, where all of this actually has emerged out of is very ancient China. And the original teachers were the Wu. And the Wu were the female shamans. And they were the ones who had the wisdom, and they were the healers.
Witches, basically.
What's that?
Witches, basically. Not negative.
Yeah, but shamans, or you could say that.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. There can be a difference in there depending on, whether you're, dark or light. So, and they definitely were both dark and light. And so still in China you can go and get, there's dark and light going on over there. And we're definitely the light school. We're not even the gray school, we're definitely the light school. So, but yes, so it came out of originally came out of the Wu, and then that became the Wu Yi. And so that became the male doctors. And then because they were more male, they started to write things down. And so they were wanting to collect all this information. The women were much more spontaneous, so they were bringing that all in very directly. They were like the living embodiment of it. Whereas the male aspect was more, they were really amazing too, because they were writing down all these books and gathering all this information. And so that became what we now call as, the Chinese medicine that you're familiar with, is more coming from the male aspect of all of the books. They're thousands of years old, these amazing books. And also the postures. But at a certain point in China, the women became discounted. so the female, went way down in value. At one point she was up here, she was like the woo, she was the healer, she was highly respected for, time immemorial. And then that shifted, and the men started actually wearing the women's garb to even do the healing as they took over that aspect. But there's at the same time being a female lineage that has been passed down from mother to daughter as well. As well, of course, there's Kuan Yin, there's Hua Mu, and there's Chen Jinggu, and there's other females also still coming out of China, but nothing like because it was all went over to male power. And so coming back to the shamanic is very much embracing this female aspect and bringing back this intuitive part, this more intuitive, spiritual, magical part. And that part was still very much in China until they decided to really they distilled the Chinese medicine, and they wanted to make it one medicine. And so they went through, and they kind of went through it with a comb, and they chose this, and they were going to talk about it this way because it had all been families and villages. And, it wasn't the same, and everybody had their own formulas. And it didn't happen until not the Cultural Revolution, until the People's Republic came in, and in the 50s, that then became set up to the Chinese medicine that you're familiar with. Now, if you go back to classical Chinese medicine, you're getting to kind of older stuff, and there's older stuff coming in with the 5 element. But the one that's most dominant really comes in was this. Well, they were trying to take the best of Chinese medicine and bring all that together. But at the same time, because it was communism, they had to eradicate the spiritual. Because communism did not agree with anything spiritual. Anything that smelled of religion or spirit had to be washed out. So then you had Chinese medicine that was about body. It became very physical, and it became about putting in needles. Because the Western mind also will embrace that, right? Like needles, we like those, yes, we can understand. There must be some wires back in there that we can't see yet, but we'll get on our microscopes, and then we'll understand that this is actually a very physical process. And then we'll take herbs, and that's okay because those are very physical too. And, so that became very, very easy for the Western mind to accept, and it became easy for China to accept also, which is wonderful, and that's why we have so much Chinese medicine. Had it not gone through that process, it would have been like just woo-woo, and of course it's the woo that we love, right? But it would have been woo-wooed out of there, and nobody would have paid any attention to it if they had talked about spirits, if they had talked about, even if they had talked about emotions and all these other aspects, that would have been totally unacceptable, and we would not have the Chinese medicine as widespread in the world as we have it. So now that that's become accepted, now we're just sort of starting to bring back this other part. So anyway, I was answering your question. Can I answer your question?
Well, I just think the shamanic that word is more of a Western kind of word, and I may be wrong.
No, it isn't a Western word. It actually comes from shaman. It's actually probably a Chinese word to describe the shamans of not Mongolia, of Siberia. So it's very specific to Siberia, but it's actually it's considered to actually be probably a Chinese word, and it does pertain to the Mongolian and to the Chinese shamans very specifically. Yeah, so that's actually the origin of the word. Yeah, and it's also like Shenman, so it's like spirit person too. Yeah.
Shadow spirit.
Shadow spirit, yes. Other questions? Okay.
Okay, how does Qigong help when the energy, like the psychic, the psychological, the emotional, all of the bodies get overplexed, overwhelmed? How does Qigong help to heal that? How does
Qigong help to heal when all the bodies become overwhelmed? Overwhelmed with?
Like the this week I've been working with my solar plexus has felt
Ah.
overtaxed.
Okay, so here's, yeah, we have a very specific answer for that.
I'm getting nerve ending stuff happening.
Okay, so when we look at this, we want to do deep breathing. And the deep breath, and we really should look at what that actually means, connects you down into this part of your body and starts to get things moving, because we can become overwhelmed with our emotions, overwhelmed with life, if we're breathing up here and we don't breathe down here. And that's because, and that will set off chronic adrenaline, chronic cortisol going into your body. You go into flight and fight mode all the time. And this starts to build up because you're not breathing here, you're not getting in touch with the emotions that sit here. And so they start to build up so much that it's sort of like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and all of a sudden we're underwater and we've gone into overwhelm. So if you were working with a practitioner, they would have you do certain exercises that are going to help you release that. We use certain sounds. They're very specific to starting to release that emotional energy. And along with that, we also would have you breathing into your abdomen. So we'd start, because you've got to start to feel what's down here, and that's going to start to, you're going to start a journey. But without that, this stagnates. And you're going to be, causing, potential, bad health in the future. You need this to move.
Yeah, well, I'm working with a pastor because the guy below me, there's demonic infestation happening in his apartment. And I keep clearing it, and I have to keep working on it all the time. And as soon as I walk out of my apartment and out of the building, I feel good.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
not good. So part of the work that I also do is house clearing. I even have a separate website for that, which is sixsensehealing.com. And there's a link to that on the first page of my website, which I consider it's just really important that this kind of thing, and people aren't aware of it, that you can live in a house and you can be extremely affected by negative energies around you, often, especially if it's an old house, from things that have happened in the past in that house.
Incense is good for that, right?
No,
Psychosis.
the incense is good for that. I laugh because I go into someone's home where it's like, we had all these people, and they came in, they did a ritual, and they did all the saging of the house, and no. You actually have to, what I talked about, you actually have to, it's not healed until it's healed. You actually have to locate the beings. They're easy to locate. I can find the beings. I can show the people, here's some, we got to work with this being that's right here, or whatever that energy. It's very specific. And you actually have to work with it, and everything goes to the lights. Whatever I do, I have to make happy. So your apartment sounds really difficult.
He's psychotic, and he just keeps doing it, repeating.
Okay, so I would actually go into your apartment and set some things up in your apartment so that doesn't go into your apartment. And you need to do that. You need to get crystals in there. They're probably going to have to be washed a lot. You're going to have to make sure that you have something on your floors that doesn't attract that energy into it. So it's just a lot of stuff that you need to do that could actually help your place.
Yes.
So you've got to do that. And you're probably going to have to do, I can send you something, I'd also send you something that you would do as a ritual a couple times a day. Yeah. Not fun. Send away for some large jet, big chunk of jet would be actually really good. But it also needs to become a talisman, so it actually has to have something put into it that will actually draw that energy that comes into your place into it.
Yeah, I have a friend that's talisman, and now I moved out of the area, so it was really helping me for
Maybe that you had a
4
talisman?
months.
Yeah.
That's kind of energy.
Okay, so anyway, so that's what you need, more of that. Anyway,
I
so
know.
there's another question over here.
Does this work, shamanic healing, does it work well with addictions? Like any type of addictions? Or can you say something, have you worked with people in addictions?
Yeah, absolutely.
And can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so when you have someone with addictions, my first prerequisite for someone with addiction is that they have to choose to come to see me.
Yep.
Doesn't work. If you can't send one to someone to see me, if they're not ready to let go of their addiction, that's not going to happen. If they're ready to let go of the addiction, we will do some work together. And it's very much like I walked through what I said about we're going to look at all those things, what their issues are, what it is that they're trying to escape, what it is that they can't face, because an addiction is always just trying to cover up pain from the past. And it's painful emotions. And even if it's showing up as you're addicted to Oxycontin because of physical pain, we actually need to go back and see what is the pain that came before that? What is the emotional pain that the physical pain is covering up? And so we really have to go deep. But yeah, absolutely. And then when you kind of get that piece of your soul back, you're a different person. And that makes all the difference.
And maintenance, like what like the people that you have treated. I mean, addictions is very difficult.
Addictions is very difficult. So I would say, and go to 12-step.
Yeah.
12 steps are awesome.
Yeah.
The only thing that I don't agree with 12-step is that they say that you will never be better. Because I have worked with people and I've found sleeping demons in their field. And I know that means that they have overcome some big addiction or something like that, and it's fully asleep, and when I can prod it and it doesn't wake up, and then like some beings will come in and say they are no longer that. And so we'll actually kind of do this graduation thing. Actually, I don't do it. It's like their guides and everything come in and say like you actually have overcome that. But yeah, 12-step is a great with this. Yeah.
So can you have energies attach themselves to you in your youth that kind of fade in and out,
Oh,
but
God, yeah.
keep showing up?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Qigong and nutrition, are there any teachings with that? Or what are your...
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, if you're doing Qigong, hopefully that the more you breathe and the better you start to feel in your body and start to work your body, you will be attracted to eating things that feel more alive to you. So it can almost just be a natural process of paying attention to what feels good. Like, just, do I want to go out and get some fried food, or do I want to get, something that feels good to my body? Because a big part of this is that you start to feel your body, you become alive in your body, and you gain a huge amount of body consciousness. So the body consciousness, then you feel what you put in. So you ate it and you feel it sitting there. You're like, that doesn't feel very good to me. So it would just be based on that. Of course, Qigong and all this works great in conjunction with Chinese medicine and the herbs and acupuncture. So all those things and the Tui knot, all of that come together, and we recommend those things to go along, especially if you're in a deep healing process, that you can go and get all of those other ways to be supported in your work. So, other questions? Yes?
What is the difference between Chinese medical Qigong and what you're doing?
Okay, so one of the problems with medical Qigong was
Can you
that,
repeat the question, because it got loud back here, we couldn't hear it.
The question was, what is the difference between Chinese medical Qigong and the shamanic Chinese medicine? So one of the things that was happening was medical Qigong started to get used. When I first got into it, nobody knew what the heck I was talking about. Like, what? Like, Qigong? What is that? So first of all, no one knew what the heck that meant. And then it started to get picked up by people who were teaching just the exercise part, which is an integral part of it all, but that's all they were teaching. And so I would say, oh, I teach this program. They said, oh, I learned that. I said, oh, you learned it. Oh, I'd be excited. Like, oh, who did you learn it from? Oh, yeah, I did this this one-day thing with this person. And I'd be like, oh, they did medical Qigong weekend? Who is that? And I said, well, it just turned out they'd been learning Qigong exercises and had been called medical Qigong. So that became very confusing. And one thing you do is that you don't want to talk to someone, tell them, oh, but you're wrong, that isn't medical Qigong. What I do is medical Qigong, right? So you don't want to go out there telling people that you're wrong. And so it's like, well, how do we say this? Because people don't understand what Qigong is. And to me, shamanic Chinese medicine is a great way to say this. And I was talking to Dr. Johnson, who's a friend of mine, and he said that is an awesome way to say it. So so it really explains it, because you see that it has these other components, like seeing into bodies and the spirit aspect, which are part of medical Qigong. But it sounds like way too medical. but marrying the word shamanic with Chinese medicine really explains this nicely.
So you would say that the shamanic Chinese medicine is medical Qigong?
Yes, if you really understand what medical Qigong is, yes. Yeah, they're the same thing. But because that word just started to get used for everything, I had to, just, like I said, I just didn't want to keep talking people, especially in California where I lived. There was a teacher there who keeps calling everything, he was very popular, called everything medical Qigong, and it was like, okay, I don't want to have to keep talking people out of that and saying, well, no, I do that really isn't that. Well, that doesn't work, so. Don't gain friends with that.
How do you incorporate Qigong if you go to like a particular church or have a particular spiritual practice?
Yeah, so Dr. Johnson has always been very much more Christian than everything. And I mean, that certainly works for us. We, I have people that I work with where it's all about Jesus and Christ and that energy coming in. And that, it's amazing to have, Christ energy come in to work with. And it's very powerful. And then but then I'll be working with someone else and it'll be different. Like I love the one where I was working with this one guy and we were working to help his father, and this father who had passed, and the father was very stuck and releasing the ghost, and the ghost went, suddenly they usually go up and this one went like sideways, and I said, whoa, they just went really fast that way, what's over there? And they said Mecca. So I was like, oh, I didn't know. I was like, they run, what's going on? So it doesn't matter, at a certain level, all of that is there. And what you ever Yeah, and it's what appeals to your heart. And it's interesting, in the first year and the second seminar, which is about setup and connecting to these beings of light, I actually put the images of beings of different light beings around the room, including Christ, and Mary, and archangels, and Buddhas and the different Buddhas, and all sorts of other, Kuan Yin's there, and and Jade Emperor, different ones. And it was like, and then we invoke these beings, these light beings, and you just go around and see, what is that, which one do you feel connected to? And people have really interesting experiences with that. See, where your connection is. Yes?
How did you learn to see these beings and all the things that are invisible?
Okay, so originally when I started doing this work, I called myself, originally I was like the Helen Keller of all this work, because I wasn't getting anything, I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything. So everybody's getting stuff, I'm not. I'm like the dumb one in the room, it's like, they're getting all this information, and they're like, oh, I'm not getting anything. And so all I could do is pay attention. So I noticed that I started to get messages, like the body movements, like, oh, that's telling me. So I stand here and I feel like turning. That must mean something. And so I started to really pay attention to that. Like, those are my messages. That's the only thing I'm getting. I have to pay attention to that. Or then I started feeling, oh, I think that I'm feeling what they're feeling. It's like, oh my God, what I'm feeling in my body is what they're feeling in their body. Okay. So I had all these discoveries going along, and then I really had to refine that. And I have a way of teaching this so that everybody gets it. Because, they don't struggle with me, you know, starting to, you know, be the Helen Keller, or if you do start that way, can you have that little testimonial from Mark here? You felt like you always said that you agreed that you felt like the Helen Keller, right?
Well, I kind of still do, to be honest.
I know, but didn't the last weekend kind of like jolt you out of that a bit?
Yeah.
Yes, he has to admit it. It's hard to admit, but yes, he was getting rather precise information that was unexplainable in any other way.
Well, since I can't explain it, I don't believe it.
Well, since he can't explain it, he can't believe it. He just needs more empirical evidence for his mind until his mind is totally convinced and it gets on board. So, but anyway, everybody starts to do that. I mean, everybody in the class at some point, even those who are highly resistant, and I would have called myself, I mean, I wanted to, I just didn't know how. And so I really feel that was a blessing because that allowed me to be able to teach it. And even like the Qigong, when I was at the retreat, I was like the slow student. It took me forever to get the energy so I could feel it and to move it and all of that. So I don't have anyone who comes to me and that I see that I think, oh, you know, they're not going to be able to get it. I feel like if I got this stuff, anyone could get this stuff. And it just keeps, you know, keeps opening up. So start off with movements, and then I would start to see things. Like, oh, I just saw something. I should say something about it. Like, what was that? You know, so like you start to say things, and then get other impressions, and then start to trust them, and then start to share them more. I mean, the whole key with that is to trust it. It's like you trust it and you speak it, and you get to have, when you speak it, you get to say, this is probably stupid, and you know, just I have no reason to believe this at all, but what do you think of this? Because I just saw that. This isn't anything that pertains to you. So you're allowed to give all the disclaimers that you want, but you have to say it. So that's the only rule. Whatever you get, you have to say it, but you can totally say that you don't think this means anything, because that'll keep your head happy. Your mind won't be freaking out like, oh no, they're going to say this. Oh no, don't go there. Don't say it. You're going to sound so stupid. You have no evidence that what you're saying could possibly be true. What are you thinking? Keep your mouth shut. Button up. So then it's like, okay, I'm going to say it, but I get to say all these things first. I get to say that it's probably not true. I don't think it's true. I don't think it's true, but just in case I'm going to say that, like, oh yeah, and then you're like, oh wow, I'm so glad I said that. So that's definitely part of the process. How are we doing for time? Okay. Okay, so 15 minutes. I do all different things in this. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes if we're in a smaller space with less people, I'll do a healing on everybody, and I'll get my students to go around and help out healing. But I think we're definitely too large a group. So those are individual healings where there's like a reading and the sort of like, well, you know, I can go through and I'll feel like this is what's going on with you, and this is the energy that you need, and so then we'll play with that and, you know, do little healings for everybody in the room that way. And those are interesting and fun, and all different things have happened in those. I remember one where sort of like trying to do a healing, and it was like, whoa, it's like their mom and their grandma were there. Like, what is like? I said, I was trying to do a healing on you, but they're here, and they both just passed for this person. So it was kind of fun that had come in. And so the mediumship is also really a big part of healing. So we learned that too, because when you really heal, you need to really embody this idea of the true, you know, shamanic Chinese medicine. You also need to be able to speak to the dead, because you need to clear things up with people who are holding on to certain kinds of loss. So that's the mediumship, and you don't have, that's sort of, you know, second year doing that. And I just taught it this past weekend, and you know, but people could do it. People were amazed themselves with the information that they could get when they didn't know. And that the other people were validating that, yeah, how did you do that? You just got this. So it's all pretty cool. Yes?
What type of meditation are you teaching in this
Well, we go through all of the Taoist meditations. So there's meditations on just about everything, on breathing, on emotions, looking into bodies. Oh yeah, there's all the energy emotion, the energy exercises and microcosmic orbit and
Inner alchemy, balancing fire and
also,
water.
yeah, inner alchemy is part of this. There's a lot because there's like 60 days of teachings, and a lot of those days have different meditations in them, and some classes have a lot more meditations than others. Some of them, they're all designed for different things that will be going along with what you're learning at that time. Yes?
You said the room was too full this evening to do small healings.
Yes.
Would it be possible to give us the gift of a small meditation that would be gentle on us, that we could take away?
Well, yes, and actually what I want to do is actually do a healing for everyone in the room, which is not going to be as specific as what it would have been to go around and do all the diagnostics. So, probably time to do that now. So I'm actually going to sit down for this. Actually, let's stand up and let's take some breaths, just to kind of give it sitting a long time. So we're going to do a little bit of spinal cord breathing. And so to get a really nice breath, you actually need to bend your knees a little bit. They should not be locked. So a little bit of softness in your knees. A little connection. Isn't that sweet? Yeah. And you're just going to bring your hands up and breathe in. And when you do, you're going to arch your back a little bit. Never push past what feels good. Just what feels good. Nice little stretch of the spine. Inhale. And exhale. You're going to curl a little bit forward. Bring the hands in. Inhale. Smile. Brings the energy in. Exhale. A little bit of a curl. Smile. Curl. Keep breathing this way. And even when you exhale, you can smile. See how much that breath can actually go all the way down into the lower abdomen? One more. And bring the hands down, bring your feet together, a little bit closer together. Just do some tapping on your heels, shake a little bit. And just kind of a little bounce here. Yeah, yawn. Yeah, you got it. Get those ears perked up. Yeah. We have a very cute white puppy right here. Yeah. Yeah. So nice, and then start to shake a little bit with that. And then separate your feet and just kind of like shake all over. Just shake any tiredness off. Just release. And one more, real good shake. Okay, and then sit. Oh, two. Yes. Okay. And so for the healing, it's really good if you can to have a pretty good posture for this. It allows the energies to come into you as we sit here. And okay, so at this point, I'm going to channel this in because it channeled the beings are really happy to come in when I channel, I say. So so it's going to be a channeled meditation. Welcome. You may begin to breathe deeply and relax and smile. And feel a freshness as you breathe in. and releasing when you breathe out. So as you breathe in, the physical level, you can certainly think that you are breathing in and absorbing oxygen, and that you are releasing carbon dioxide. But you see, there is much more to the breath. It does not just exist at that level. So you are also breathing in love and light and spirit. You are breathing in spirit. You are breathing in chi. You are breathing in life force. And so as you breathe in, feel that that is life force that is coming into you. And how do you know? You know because if you don't do it, you will die. And so it is life force marrying the physical body. It's marrying, it's going into your cells, it's traveling through the blood. Not only is it life force, it is also consciousness and spirit. You are bringing in your spirit, you are bringing in consciousness, and as you inhale, it is breathing into the lungs and is making the blood bright red, which is the color of spirit that pumps through the body. This spirit is being brought into every cell of your body. So feeling that connection with spirit. So you are breathing in at the physical, the energetic, the chi level, and the spirit level. You are breathing in Shen. And as you exhale, spirit is receiving you. So that is being breathed back in by spirit. You are being received, and you are in a constant flow with everything around you. You are constantly connected. You are not separate. And it is this breath that allows you to have this experience here in this physical plane human world. So just smiling as you breathe. Good. And now, as you breathe and relax, I want you to become aware of a light or a feeling, for those of you who are not so visual, a feeling of light coming from above. For there are a great many beings of light. In fact, the beings of light also love this particular location, where this store does hold a great deal of light. And so we are most happy to be here, and so we feel very welcome in this location. And we are the beings of light who are here to work with each of you, and some of you being more specific with the beings who are coming in, and some of you who are receiving a great deal of light from this higher source, and many different angelic beings and such who are here to work with each one of you, and this light now coming in. It is descending. We want